while camping in the wild forests of Alaska. My own son looked me in the eyes and left me there to die. No food, no gear, no way back. Just before he drove off, he smirked and said, "Good luck, go meet the grizzlies." He thought that would be the last time anyone ever saw me. But what he didn't know was, I wasn't the one walking into a trap. He was. When he got back home, I was already there, sitting comfortably, waiting, smiling. "I have a surprise for you," I said. And trust me, he never saw it coming. A few days earlier, everything had started with a simple conversation. Or at least, that's what I thought. My son walked into my house without knocking. His hoodie damp from Seattle rain. His attitude even worse. "Dad, I need $5,000. Right now." No greeting. No respect. Just a demand. I froze. Not because of the money, but because of the tone. This wasn't my son asking for help. This was someone expecting obedience. "I already sent you money last week," I said calmly. $3,000, he snapped. "That barely covers anything." His voice rose. Anger, frustration, entitlement, all mixed into one ugly truth I had ignored for years. "Son, you need to start working," I told him. That's when he laughed. Not a normal laugh. A bitter one. Cold. "Why should I work?" he said. "When you're sitting on all this money." Then he said something I'll never forget. "After you die, I'll run everything better than you ever did." That moment, everything changed. Not just what he said, but how he said it. There was no sadness, no hesitation, just calculation. Like my death was part of his plan. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying his words in my head. 20 years. 20 years of raising him alone. After his mother passed, I worked day and night, built my business from nothing, gave him everything I never had. And somehow, I created someone who saw me as an obstacle. The next morning, I went through old photos. His childhood, his school days, his graduation, everything I had sacrificed for. And slowly, a painful truth revealed itself. I hadn't raised him to be strong. I had raised him to depend on me. Every time he failed, I saved him. Every time he needed money, I gave it. I thought I was helping him, but I wasn't. I was weakening him. And now, that weakness had turned into greed. A few days later, he called me. His tone had completely changed. Soft, friendly, almost fake. "Dad, I've been thinking," he said. "I want to fix things between us." I didn't respond. I just listened. Then he said it. "Let's go camping. Alaska. Just you and me." Alaska. Out of all places. Somewhere remote. Isolated. Dangerous. And suddenly, he wanted a bonding trip? Every instinct in my body said something was wrong. But another part of me, the father in me, wanted to believe him. Wanted one last chance. To fix things. So I agreed. But I didn't go unprepared. Before leaving, I made one decision. A decision that would change everything. I updated my will. If anything happened to me, he would get nothing. Not a single dollar. Then, I packed my bags and went with him. What he didn't realize was, I wasn't just going on a trip. I was walking straight into his plan. Fully aware. And I was ready. The flight to Alaska was strange. My son wouldn't stop talking. Too cheerful. Too energetic. Like someone trying to sell an idea, not live it. He kept bringing up old memories. "Remember when you taught me how to start a fire? Remember our camping trips?" I nodded, but something felt off. Because those weren't memories he cared about anymore. Those were memories he was using. When we landed, the air hit us like ice. Sharp, clean, silent. Alaska doesn't feel like the rest of the world. It feels untouched and dangerous. We rented a truck, picked up supplies, or at least, that's what I thought. Because now that I think about it, He was the one choosing everything. Extra rope, heavy-duty lights, emergency gear. At the time, it looked like over-preparation. Now I realize. It was control. The deeper we drove, the quieter it got. No traffic, no signal, no people, just endless forest, and long, empty roads. At one point, I saw him step away to take a call. His voice dropped. Low, urgent. The second he noticed me looking, he hung up. Just checking the weather, he said. I didn't reply, because I already knew. That wasn't the truth. By the time we reached the trail, we were completely off the grid. No cell service. No nearby camps. Nothing. This is perfect, he said. And the way he said it sent a chill down my spine. We hiked for hours. Through thick trees. Over uneven ground. Past animal tracks I recognized instantly. Moose. Wolves. And worse. Bears. I set up camp the way I always had. Food hung high. Fire downwind. Clear sight lines. Military habits never leave you. He struggled with everything. The tent. The gear. Even basic setup. That's when it hit me again. If he couldn't even camp properly, why insist on coming this deep? That night, we sat by the fire. Silence between us. Heavy. Unnatural. Then he started asking questions. Not normal ones. Calculated ones. How do you survive without help? How do you know when someone's lying? What would you do if you were completely alone out here? I answered. But inside, every alarm was going off. When it was time to sleep, he volunteered to stay awake. I'll take first watch, he said. That alone was strange. He'd never done that before. Never cared to. But I let it go. I went into my tent, closed my eyes, and listened. At first, normal sounds. Fire crackling. Footsteps. Movement. Then, nothing. Not the peaceful kind of silence. The wrong kind. The kind that feels like someone is waiting. Not resting. I didn't sleep properly that night. Instinct wouldn't let me. At dawn, I stepped outside. And that's when everything changed. The truck was loaded. Every piece of gear gone. Food, water, GPS, emergency beacon, even the rifle. All of it. In the truck. And my son. Standing beside it. What are you doing? I asked. He turned slowly. And the look on his face was something I had never seen before. Cold. Empty. Final. I'm leaving, he said. At first, I thought it was a joke. A bad one. We planned 3 days, I said. Plans changed. Then he looked me straight in the eyes and said the words that confirmed everything. I'm done with you. Not angry. Not emotional. Just done. Years of resentment poured out of him. You controlled everything. You made me dependent. You never let me live my own life. I tried to reason with him, tried to reach whatever was left of my son, but it was already gone. I don't want your allowance anymore, he said. I want everything. That's when the truth landed. Heavy, clear, unavoidable. This wasn't anger. This wasn't rebellion. This was a plan. You're leaving me here, I said slowly. He smiled. Yes. Then came the line I'll never forget. Try not to meet the grizzlies too fast. And just like that, he got into the truck. I stepped forward. Desperate. Mason. But he didn't even look back. The engine started. The wheels turned. And within seconds, he was gone. Just like that. I stood there. Alone. 30 miles from anywhere. No food. No water. No gear. Just silence. And the realization that my own son had just tried to kill me. But here's what he didn't know. He had made one mistake. A big one. He forgot who he was leaving behind. For a few seconds, I just stood there. Not moving. Not thinking. Just listening to the silence he left behind. Then training kicked in. Not emotions. Not anger. Not fear. Survival. First rule. Don't panic. I took a slow breath. Then another. Forced my heart to slow down. Assess. I said it out loud. Old habit. Pockets. Wallet. Keys. A small folding knife. That was it. No food. No water. No gear. 30 miles into wilderness. With nothing. All right, I whispered. Then we do it the hard way. Second rule. Understand your environment. Cold air. Dense forest. Animal tracks everywhere. And somewhere out there. Grizzlies. I looked at the sun. Calculated direction. West. Would eventually lead back. If I made it. So I started walking. Every step felt heavier than it should. Not because of the terrain, but because of the truth. My own son had planned this. Not in anger. Not in the moment. He had thought it through. And that thought cut deeper than anything else. Hours passed. Maybe more. Time stopped meaning anything. My throat burned. Dry. Cracked. Every breath colder than the last. Then I saw it. Tracks. Not human. Animal. A game trail. And where there's a trail, there's usually water. So I followed it. Branches snapped under my feet. I made noise on purpose. Didn't want to surprise anything out here. Because out here, you don't get second chances. At one point, I froze. A sound. Low. Distant. A howl. Wolves. My grip tightened on the knife in my pocket. Useless. But something. Keep moving, I told myself. Don't stop. And then, just when my legs started to give in, I heard something else. Not nature. Engines. Faint. But real. I turned toward the sound immediately. Didn't think. Didn't hesitate. Pushed through trees. Branches hitting my face. Breathing hard. The sound got louder. Closer. Hope. For the first time since morning. Real hope. And then, I broke through the trees. A clearing. 4 ATVs. People. Real people. They turned toward me. Shocked. I must have looked insane. Dirty. Scratched. Half dead. Help. I managed. My son, he left me. One of them rushed forward. A bearded man. Calm. Focused. The kind of man who knows exactly what he's doing. What happened? He asked. He took everything, left me out here to die. The group went silent, because everyone there understood something instantly. This wasn't an accident. This was attempted murder. The man nodded slowly. I'm Oliver, he said. Former park ranger. Of course he was. Out here, the only people you meet are the ones who survive. They gave me water. I drank like a man who hadn't seen it in days. How long ago? Oliver asked. Few hours, maybe more. He looked at his GPS, then back at me. If your son took the main road, he said carefully, he's still hours away from getting back. That's when something clicked. Something sharp. Clear. You're saying, I paused, I can get back before him. Oliver gave a slight smile. Easily. And in that moment, everything changed. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was ahead of him. He thought I was dead. Lost. Gone. But instead, I was about to be waiting for him. What do you want to do? Oliver asked. Call the police now. I thought about it. I could have ended it right there. But no. Not yet. Because this wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about truth. I want to get back first, I said. Oliver stuttered me for a second. Then nodded. All right, he said. Then let's make sure he doesn't see it coming. I climbed onto the ATV behind him. And as the engine roared to life, I looked back at the forest, the place where my son tried to erase me. And for the first time, I wasn't thinking about survival. I was thinking about consequences. Because when he opened that door later that night, he wouldn't be walking into an empty room. He'd be walking into a man. He failed to kill. The ride back felt unreal. Wind cutting across my face. Trees blurring past. But my mind, crystal clear, for the first time in years. I wasn't reacting. I was in control. Oliver knew hidden trails, old ranger routes, paths no tourist would ever find. What should have taken hours took less than 2. By the time we reached the motel, my son was still on the road, driving back, probably rehearsing his story. We got separated. He must have gotten lost. I tried to find him. Yeah, I could already hear the lies. Inside the room, everything felt normal. Too normal. Like nothing had happened. But this time, I was ready. I took a shower, cleaned off the dirt, changed into fresh clothes. Then I sat down and pulled out the papers. My will. 3 weeks ago. I had changed it. At the time, it felt harsh. Now, it felt necessary. Every business, every dollar, every asset, gone. Not to him. To charities. To veterans. To a foundation in his mother's name. He had planned my death for money. So I made sure. There was nothing to gain. Oliver arrived just before nightfall. Camera ready. Quiet. Focused. You sure about this? He asked. I nodded. Tonight, he tells the truth. We waited. Silence filled the room again. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was anticipation. Then, headlights. Through the window. I saw the truck pull in. Right on time. I took my seat. Facing the door. Papers laid out in front of me. Calm. Still. Ready. The key turned. The door opened. And there he was. Tired. Confident. Expecting. Nothing. Then he saw me. And everything broke. His face went pale. Eyes wide. Body frozen. Dad. I smiled. Long trip. I asked calmly. He stepped back. Like he'd seen a ghost. How are you? Alive. I finished. Silence. Heavy. Crushing. I left you. He stopped himself. Too late. Yes, I said. You did. His breathing got faster. His mind racing. Trying to fix something. That couldn't be fixed anymore. I can explain. No, I said. You already did. I stood up slowly. You planned it. You calculated it. You executed it. Each word hit him harder. You left your own father to die, for money. He shook his head. Desperate now. It wasn't like that. Then what was it? I stepped closer. Silence. Because there was no version of this. That made him innocent. Then his eyes dropped. To the desk. The papers. What's that? He asked. I picked them up. My will. He froze again. You wanted everything, right? Hope flickered. Just for a second. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I changed it, I said. His expression shifted. Confusion. Fear. What do you mean, changed? It means, I said calmly, you get nothing. Silence. Pure silence. No businesses. No money. No house. I held his gaze. Nothing. His face collapsed. You can't do that. I already did. And that's when it hit him. Everything he did, everything he planned, was for nothing. He didn't just fail. He destroyed himself. You ruined my life, he shouted. I shook my head. No, I said quietly. You did. For a moment, we just stood there, a father, and the stranger his son had become. Then I walked past him, toward the door. Where are you going? He asked, voice shaking now. I stopped, just for a second, to finish this. And then I opened the door. Outside, Oliver was already on the phone. Police. By the time they arrived, there was nothing left to say. They had the recording. His words. His plan. Everything. As they put the cuffs on him, he looked at me one last time. Not angry. Not proud. Just empty. Like he finally understood. What he had lost. Not the money. Me. I didn't say anything. Because there was nothing left to say. Some endings don't need words. A few days later, I went back home. Different man. Different mindset. I built the foundation. In his mother's name. Helped people who actually needed it. People who would never trade a life for money. As for my son, he got exactly what he chose. Consequences. And me. I finally understood something. I should have learned years ago. Giving someone everything doesn't make them love you. Sometimes, it just teaches them how to take everything from you. 3 days later, I was back in Seattle. Same house. Same office. Same chair. But nothing felt the same. Silence filled the room. But this time, it didn't feel heavy. It felt honest. No lies. No pretending. No false hope. Just truth. On my desk, a letter waited. From him. 5 pages. I already knew what it would say. Before I even opened it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I made a mistake. I read it anyway. Not because I believed him, but because I needed closure. Every line. Carefully written. Not from guilt, but from fear. Fear of prison. Fear of losing everything. Fear of consequences. Not once did he truly acknowledge what he did. Not once did he say, I tried to kill you. And that told me everything. Some people don't regret their actions. They regret getting caught. I folded the letter slowly, looked at it one last time, then fed it into the shredder. Piece by piece, it disappeared. Just like the illusion I had lived in for 20 years. Later that week, I finalized everything. The foundation, the scholarships, the donations, every dollar he thought he'd inherit, went to people who would actually value it. People who knew what struggle meant. People who would never trade a human life for money. And for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt before. Peace. Not happiness, but clarity. The kind that only comes after everything breaks. Sometimes, losing someone doesn't destroy you. It reveals the truth about them. And sometimes, that truth sets you free. Months passed. The case moved forward. Evidence was strong. Too strong. There was no way out for him. One day, I got a call. They asked if I wanted to testify. I paused. Not because I was unsure, but because I already knew my answer. No, I said. Not out of mercy, but because I didn't need to. He had already told the truth himself. That night, I sat alone, looking at an old photo. Him, as a child, smiling, innocent, the boy I once knew. And I realized something. That hurt more than everything else combined. That boy was gone long before Alaska. I just refused to see it. I placed the photo back down. Not with anger, but with acceptance. Some stories don't have happy endings, but they do have necessary ones. And this was one of them. He took me to the wilderness, so I would disappear. But in the end, he's the one who lost everything. 6 months passed. Life moved on. Or at least, it looked like it did. The foundation was running. Scholarships were being awarded. Letters of gratitude filled my office. People I had never met, thanking me. And yet, every now and then, in the quiet moments, my mind went back. Not to Alaska, but to him. As a child. That's the thing about memory. It doesn't follow logic. It doesn't care what someone became. It only shows you what they once were. One evening, just as I was about to close the office, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something made me pick up. Hello. Silence. Then a voice. Lower than I remembered. We need to talk. I froze. Not because I didn't recognize it, but because I did. It was him. How did you get this number? I asked, he said. Same tone. Controlled. Careful. I won't take much of your time. I stayed quiet. Then he said something I didn't expect. I'm not calling about money. That got my attention. Then what do you want? A pause. Longer this time. Then, to tell you the truth. I almost laughed. Truth. I said. You had your chance. I know, he replied. And I lied, even then. Silence filled the space between us. Why now? I asked. Another pause. Then he said it. Because I don't have anything left to lose. That sentence felt different. Not defensive. Not manipulative. Empty. And for the first time, I heard something in his voice I hadn't heard before. Not anger. Not entitlement. But, wait. I didn't plan to call, he continued. But something happened. I didn't respond. I just listened. Because this time, it didn't feel like a performance. In here, he said quietly, you meet people worse than you. That doesn't surprise me. No, he replied. You don't understand. They don't pretend. That line hit harder than I expected. They don't lie about what they are, he continued. They don't blame others. And me. A long pause. I kept telling myself it was your fault. My grip tightened on the phone. I kept saying you made me this way. Another pause. But the truth is. His voice cracked. Just slightly. I chose it. Silence. Heavy. Real. For the first time. He wasn't just saying words. He was seeing them. I knew exactly what I was doing in Alaska, he said. I knew you might die. My chest tightened. And I still did it. No excuses. No blame. Just truth. And somehow, that made it worse. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he added quickly. I don't deserve that. Then why call? I asked. Because you deserve to hear it. That stopped me. I wanted you to know, he continued. It wasn't your failure. A long silence followed. Because for months, that question had lived in my mind. Where did I go wrong? And now, he was answering it. You gave me everything, he said. I just turned it into something ugly. I sat down slowly. Not because I was weak, but because the weight of that truth needed space. I don't expect anything from you, he said. No letters. No visits. Nothing. Another pause. I just didn't want you to spend the rest of your life thinking this was your fault. The line went quiet. And for a moment, neither of us spoke. Two people. Connected by blood. Separated by choices. Take care of yourself, he said finally. And just like that, he hung up. I sat there for a long time. Phone still in my hand. Processing. Not what he did. I had already accepted that. But what he said. The truth. Not the kind that fixes things, but the kind that closes them. I walked to the window. Looked out at the city. People moving. Living. Unaware. And I realized something. Simple. But powerful. Not every story ends with reunion. Not every relationship gets repaired. Some just end with understanding. And sometimes, that's enough. I picked up an old photo again. But this time, I didn't feel pain. Just distance. Like looking at a life that no longer belonged to me. I placed it back down, turned off the lights, and walked out of the office. Not as a victim. Not as a father trying to fix everything. But as a man who finally accepted the truth. He tried to leave me in the wilderness, so I would disappear. But in the end, the only thing that disappeared was the illusion that I could save him. After that call, something changed. Not around me. Inside me. 4 months. I had been carrying a question. A quiet one. Was it my fault? Did I raise him wrong? Did I give too much? Did I miss something? That question had followed me everywhere. In the office. At home. Even in my sleep. But after hearing his voice that night, it went quiet. Not because the pain disappeared, but because the answer finally came. He chose it, not me. That truth didn't make things easier, but it made them clearer. And clarity is a strange kind of peace. A week later, I did something I hadn't planned. I drove. No destination. No schedule. Just drove. Hours passed. City turned into highway. Highway turned into open land. And without realizing it, I stopped. A small park. Quiet. Empty. I stepped out of the car. Sat on a bench. And for the first time in a long time, I let myself do nothing. No thinking. No analyzing. Just breathe. The wind moved softly through the trees. Kids laughed somewhere in the distance. Life. Moving forward. Unaffected. And that's when it hit me. The world doesn't stop. For anyone's pain. No matter how deep it is. And maybe that's not cruel. Maybe that's necessary. Because it forces you to move too. People think letting go means forgiving. It doesn't. Not always. Sometimes letting go simply means you stop holding on to what happened. Not for them. For yourself. I didn't forgive him. Not that day. Not that week. Maybe not ever. But I stopped replaying it. Stopped asking why. Stopped trying to fix something that was already broken beyond repair. And slowly, piece by piece, I got my life back. The foundation grew. More people helped. More lives changed. Strangers, who became the reason I kept going. And in a strange way, the thing that was meant to destroy me gave me a purpose I never had before. Almost a year later, another letter came. Same handwriting. I stared at it for a long time. Didn't open it. Didn't rush. Just looked at it. Because this time, I had a choice. Before, I read it out of pain. Out of curiosity. But now I didn't need anything from it. Not answers. Not closure. Not even words. I already had those. So I placed the letter in a drawer, unopened, and closed it. Not out of anger, but out of control. Because for the first time, he didn't decide what affected me. I did. Some people expect stories like this to end with forgiveness, a reunion, a second chance. But real life doesn't always work that way. Sometimes, the ending is simpler, quieter, more honest. You accept what happened. You accept who they became. And then, you walk away. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally understand. You can't save someone who was willing to destroy you. He tried to leave me in the wilderness, so I would never come back. But the truth is, I came back, just not as the man he thought he knew. Time passed, not in big moments, but in small ones. Morning coffee, empty house, long drives, silent dinners. Life didn't feel broken anymore, but it didn't feel the same either. There's a difference. People think healing means you go back to who you were. You don't. You just learn how to carry what happened without letting it crush you. Some days were easy. Some weren't. Sometimes, out of nowhere, a memory would hit. A laugh. A moment. A younger version of him. And for a second, just a second, I'd forget everything that came after. Then reality would return. And with it, that quiet weight. Not anger. Not even pain anymore. Just something that stayed. One afternoon, I visited the foundation office. There was a small ceremony. Scholarships being awarded. Young students. Hardworking. Focused. The kind of people who understood the value of opportunity. I stood in the back, watching. Not as a businessman. Not as someone important. Just as a man observing. A girl stepped up to the stage. Nervous. Holding her paper tightly. "This scholarship," she said, "changed everything for me." Her voice shook, but she didn't stop. "I don't know the person behind it," she continued. "But whoever you are, thank you for believing in someone like me." Silence filled the room. Then applause. But I didn't clap. I just stood there, still, because in that moment, I understood something I hadn't before. This was the legacy. Not money, not property, not control. Impact. Real. Lasting. The kind that doesn't destroy people, but lifts them. And for the first time, I felt something close to pride. Not for what I built before, but for what I chose. After everything fell apart. That night, I sat alone again. Same chair, same room, but a different man. I thought about everything. The past, the mistakes, the choices, his, mine, and one truth became clear. I couldn't change what happened. I couldn't change him. But I had changed. What came next? And sometimes, that's the only control you ever really have. Not over people, not over outcomes, but over what you do. After everything goes wrong, people ask me sometimes if I regret anything. And the answer is simple. I regret not seeing the truth earlier. But I don't regret what happened in Alaska. Because that moment, as painful as it was, showed me everything I needed to see. About him. And about myself. He tried to end my life. For an inheritance. But in doing so, he gave me something far more valuable. Clarity. Purpose. And the understanding that some people come into your life, not to stay, but to teach you exactly what you must never become. He left me in the wilderness, thinking I wouldn't survive. But I did. And in the end, I wasn't the one who was lost. Years passed. Not quickly, but steadily. The kind of time that doesn't rush. It just moves forward. Whether you're ready or not. The foundation grew beyond anything I expected. More students. More families. More lives changed. People started to know the name. Not mine. Hers. The woman I lost long ago. Whose memory became something good in this world. And me. I got older. Slower. Quieter. But not empty. Not anymore. One morning, I found myself doing something I hadn't done in years. I opened that drawer. The one with the last letter. Still there. Unopened. Untouched. All this time. I picked it up. Turned it over in my hands. For a moment, I thought about finally reading it. Maybe there was something in it. A truth. A regret. A goodbye. But then, I stopped. Because I realized something simple. Whatever was inside that letter belonged to the past, and I no longer lived there. So I placed it back, closed the drawer, and this time, it didn't feel unfinished. It felt complete. A few weeks later, I took a trip. Not for business. Not for work. Just a visit. A quiet place. Far from the city. Simple. Still. I stood there for a long time. No words. Just memories. Not of the end, but of the beginning. Laughter. Small moments. A life that once felt whole. I did what I could, I said quietly. Not as an excuse, but as truth. The wind moved gently around me. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was holding onto anything. No guilt. No anger. No questions. Just acceptance. On the way back, I made one last decision. Not out of emotion, but out of clarity. I instructed my attorney to add one final clause. Not to change anything, but to define something. If my son ever changed, truly changed, not with words, not with letters, but with actions, over time, then one day, a small portion of what I built would go toward helping him rebuild his life, not as inheritance, not as reward, but as a chance, a single one, because even after everything, I was still his father. But this time, on my terms. Life didn't turn into a perfect story. There was no reunion, no emotional embrace, no dramatic redemption, just distance, time, and a quiet understanding that some things don't come back. And that's okay, because not every ending is meant to be fixed. Some are meant to be accepted and lived with. He left me in the wilderness, so I would never find my way back. But I did. And in the end, I didn't just survive. I learned when to let go and when to finally move on.